Hey guys, my name is Mitsumiyo, and welcome to an episode of Monday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I'll give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you'd like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. The first question for the day is, are you happy with the new Rainbow Six Siege Stadium? It seems like a wasted time to make them timed exclusive. Well, I don't know about you guys, but the stadium content, at least for me, has to be some of my favorite events in Rainbow Six Siege. I love the aesthetic. I love the fact that they're able to just somehow slam two maps together and then improve upon them. In Armory in particular, a lot of the angles and the weird lines of sight and a lot of the issues with that objective haven't necessarily been solved, but I think that they resolved many of those problems. Now, I'm not saying that Stadium 2.0 is flawless. I'm sure it does have some issues. Down below in the basement seems to be a little wonky here and there, but just in general, it is so much fun and refreshing to plan a map that you're already fairly comfortable with. You know the general layout, but it's just different enough to make things interesting. I think that's probably my favorite aspect about this kind of event. Now, to get to your final question of, do I think this is a waste of time? Yes and no. The reason why Ubisoft does these events is, well, obviously to bring more content to the game for people to enjoy, but also to incentivize other people to either come back or play for the first time so that they don't miss out. The fear of missing out is a tactic that a lot of game developers use, and that is no different for Ubisoft. And so even though I'm assuming it takes a fair amount of development time, there's a lot of unique assets here. They had to sit down and really think through how they were going to balance the map and the changes that they were going to make. All of that goes out the window in about a month when we no longer can play on it. And yeah, I would agree with you. To some extent, that does feel like a waste of time. And so the hope that I have is that Ubisoft finally comes to the realization that they have all of this free content at their fingertips and that they will slowly start to trickle it back into the game. So for example, one weekend you're playing Rainbow Six Siege is Magic. The next weekend after that, they bring in the first stadium map. The week after, another one of these modes. I feel like that would really spice things up and not only just bring in a lot more variety to the game, but also allow those players that didn't have a chance to play those modes, because not everyone has been playing Siege for years now, finally a chance to experience them. I think that that would be incredible. Now, will Ubisoft go through with something like this? Probably not, if we're being honest. Once again, because of the fear of missing out, they do like to use that, but also because I imagine they don't want Siege to get too large in its file size. They don't want it to get bloated where to download Siege, it's like hundreds or 200 gigs, like some other games out there. I think that also comes into play. In general, though, I do understand where you're coming from. I am loving Stadium, and for that very reason, I don't think that it's necessarily a waste of time because we're enjoying it in the now, and that is important. I'm having a lot of fun, but it is such a shame that in a couple of weeks, in a couple of months, we're not going to be able to play it ever again, or at least that's kind of the direction that Ubisoft has been going. The next one comes from Alex, and it is, do you think that Ubisoft likes to cater to the Pro League players more than the entire community? Siege just doesn't feel like the same game most of the time because they constantly take ideas from the pro players and not the million other players. So this topic comes up a lot. I imagine the reason why we're talking about it today is that Ubisoft removed Withstand from Zofia. A couple weeks ago, a lot of pro players were talking about how Withstand makes no sense in Rainbow Six Siege, it should be removed, and then a short while later, it was removed. And from the outside looking in, I can completely understand why people are looking at this as Ubisoft only cares about pro players. Zofia has had this for literally years. Why is such a big issue now? Why are they removing content, something I enjoyed? I can understand that frustration. I have been getting a lot of questions along these lines ever since this change went through. Clearly, a lot of people are upset. They feel like Ubisoft is ignoring them and only cares about the pro scene. And to be honest, I can understand why this occurs. It's very obvious when they remove something from the game or change something designed specifically for the Pro League. But what's a little less obvious, I think it's something that we have to remember, is that a lot of changes that are made to this game isn't for them, it's for everyone else. A really good example of this is the runout timer. Forever, it's been 2 seconds before you are notified that a defensive character was outside of the building. They've dropped that down to now 1 second. That wasn't done for pro players. it wasn't done for them at all. They weren't even taken into consideration. It was for everyone else in the game. Those are a lot more subtle. Those are the adjustments that kind of go unnoticed that is for everyone else. I do not envy Ubisoft in this position because they really have to walk a fine line where they cater to pro players because you have to take their feedback into consideration. You don't want the pro scene to devolve into chaos because that would be unwatchable. That is not good for the longevity of Siege, but you also need to accommodate for everyone else that plays the game. A lot of people have the mentality that if you balance Siege around the highest level of play, everything below it is going to be well balanced. And you would think in theory that would work, but in reality, that's just not how it works out. When Goyo was first released, a lot of people found him to be a pretty solid operator, but nowhere near overpowered. The pros, on the other hand, thought that he was game-breaking. Ubisoft stepped in, realized that yes, he was too strong because of the pro scene, and then removed one of his gadgets. And now Goyo, because of that, is one of the more underwhelming characters on defense for the vast majority of Rainbow Six Siege players. This is the reason why I do not envy Ubisoft in this situation. It's a lose-lose. You're never going to be able to make everyone happy. In general, though, and hopefully I've kind of illustrated that this is a complicated topic and it's not black and white. There's a lot of gray here. Yes, Ubisoft 100% caters to pro players in some instances, but that doesn't mean that they're just ignoring all of the requests and wants of the casual player base, and a lot of the subtle changes that they've made is with them wholly in mind. The next question comes from Connor, and it is, what would be your opinion about an operator with an acid launcher? This could slowly eat through a reinforced wall that creates a larger hole over time. It may have to have a time delay to give defense an opportunity to counter. Maybe this could eat through floors or ceiling to create a small hatch-like opening. I have never really been in favor of an operator that has some sort of acid that they can use to be able to get through reinforcements. The reason why is, well, first of all, there's already a lot of hard breachers in Rainbow Six Siege. I think we're pretty much at that point where we don't necessarily need any more. We also have the secondary gadget that's now been introduced, but also this sounds really similar to Maverick. Maverick already fulfills this role. Now, you could argue that this gadget would allow him to make larger holes, but if that's the case, then aren't you just introducing a character that has no counter? This is one of the reasons why I think Maverick is a little bit flawed, is that he doesn't really have any counter other than maybe himself. If you don't know how to open up a wall properly, you can get taken out while you're going through the process. But once you understand the nuance of him, you're pretty much good to go. And so if this character can just walk up to a wall, if it's banded and muted, place it on, and then it will slowly take it out and create a large opening for his teammates, that just seems like it would be too powerful. That's all in one. You wouldn't need a Thatcher, you wouldn't need anyone else to assist him, and I don't think that's good game balance. Now, as for the second part, being able to then use this on a floor to open up a hole to drop in like a hatch, I also think this would be too powerful. A lot of people love this idea. If you guys remember the original E3 trailer all the way back, I think it was in 2014, that was the way that Rainbow Six Siege worked. You could open up literally the floor and the ceiling above you and take out people below and jump down between. It was incredible. But also I think Ubisoft came to the conclusion in development that that is just impossible to balance. There is a reason why the hatches are in the locations that they are. Imagine you're playing on Clubhouse, for example. If you're trying to make your way down in the kitchen, instead of having to go through the main hatch, which leaves you pretty open from every angle, if you just made a hole on the right-hand side and then dropped on down, you don't necessarily have a free, easy plan. There might be some ways for defense to be able to adapt, but it would be significantly easier to get into that position. This would completely change Rainbow Six Siege, and I don't necessarily think it would be for the better. Yes, on some objectives, defense would be able to work around it, but I think that this would be way too powerful. And so while I know in theory it sounds awesome, I just don't think that this is the direction that Ubisoft is going to go for Rainbow Six Siege. The next question comes from Philip, and it is, what do you think of buffing Twitch in a way where her drone zap slows enemy movements? Like Clash can slow people down with her shield. I think it could lead to great team play and would be worth a shot on the TTS. That admittedly is a pretty cool idea. It facilitates teamwork. You would have to have a buddy to be able to pull this off, but you drone in, someone follows the drone, you make the call out, zap them really quickly. That person that they zapped isn't going to be able to move around, and then your teammate can swoop on in with that call out, and also someone that is now vulnerable. That actually doesn't sound too bad. I really think that Twitch's drone needs some sort of improving, and this could be one way that Ubisoft could go about it. Now, the reason why I don't think that they're going to do this, though, is that Ubisoft has clearly shown that they don't want Twitch to be used to deal damage or to take out players. When she first came out, she had like 15 shocks. Each of them did 10 damage apiece. Like, she could actually slowly whittle someone down if she wanted to. Now she has 3 of them that go on a cooldown and they deal 1 damage apiece. They have illustrated that they only want Twitch to go after gadgets, and that's about it. And so for them to make kind of a shift with her, where now it's more of an offensive ability, I just don't see them going down that route. For me personally, the one upgrade that I'm holding on to hope when it comes to Twitch is really simple. Just allow her gadget to jump. It has to be one of the clunkiest gadgets in the game, and it gets taken out very easily by anyone that is just paying attention. And so while yes, I like your idea, it's interesting and cool, maybe it would be too strong, but I like that it would require some teamwork to pull it off. What I would much rather prefer is just allowing her a little bit more maneuverability with that drone. But yeah, guys, that is it for today's episode of Monday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about what we discussed in today's video. Are you enjoying the new stadium map? Would you like to see them return? Give me your guys' thoughts down below. As always, if you'd like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can also leave a comment or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. But until next time, guys, have a good one and take it easy.